In this presentation, we will record a journal entry related to the requisition of materials in a job cost system. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info. We're going to have the information on the left. We're going to enter the journal entry into our general journal here, then post it to the general ledger. And the general ledger will be used to create the trial balance. We can see the trial balance is going to be in order in terms of assets, liabilities, equity, income, and then expense accounts. In the trial balance, we're going to have the debits represented with non-bracketed or positive numbers, credits with bracketed numbers or negative numbers for Excel, and therefore the total debits and credits are equal to 0 at this time, no net income at this time. Nothing in sales, cost of goods sold, or any of the income statement accounts. Our focus here, of course, is going to be on the tracking of inventory through the job cost system. So we're going to be working up here in the work in process and the raw materials, finished goods, overhead as we work through this problem. Our goal here is going to be taking raw materials, the raw materials that are going to be in our warehouse represented by the raw materials account, and we're going to be transferring them to the jobs, and to where we can, we'll transfer them to the job, and anything that we cannot transfer to the job, we're going to put into overhead. So when we transfer things to the job, that means that it's going from the warehouse. We want to take this stuff from the warehouse, and we want to put it into the factory where we produce things. So if we're making guitars, we would take the wood or whatever from the warehouse and put it into the factory where we're going to start to make the inventory. So that's going to be our idea here. Now, if we cannot apply it to a particular job within a job cost system, then we're going to apply it out to overhead. So first, let's just take a quick look at an example of a form that might be used to do this. And remember, if it's a large company, we're going to have to do this with documentation to have a requisition form in order to transfer the inventory. So the inventory we imagine is in the warehouse. We might have something like a requisition form, something like this. This is just an example of a requisition form, which would have the job number, the materials, the date of the requisition, and what we want, if it's planks of wood, requested by, and it's going to be filled out by. So we have this check and balance here. So in a larger company, we would have this requisition, and this would be what the documentation would be to allow us to take the raw materials from the warehouse and put them into a job. And notice we're referencing here a particular job, and that's going to be allowing us to assign it both in terms of the materials ledger card, which is kind of like the material, tracking the material within an inventory type system in the warehouse. It's also going to be used as requisition form for us to apply it to the job. And we'll see that process here. So we need to know which job it is so that we know what job it's going from out of the warehouse and what job it's going to into work in process. And then we might have a materials ledger card. This is just showing the inventory, just an example form that would say that we're tracking basically the inventory in a similar way in raw materials as we would just in a merchandising company. So for example, we have anything that's going to be received here would have a receiving report, number of units received, units, total price, and then we're going to add that to the total here so that this is what's on our balance sheet at any given time, at any given date. So on the balance, we started with 1 unit at 225 or 225, then we got 3 more units. We got 2 more units to add up to that 3 at 225 or $675 worth of inventory. And then when the inventory is taken out, we do that with a requisition form, similar to this. Again, these are just examples. And the requisition form says we're going to want 1 unit at 225. And that leaves us with 3 minus the 1 or 2 units that are still left at 225 for 450. So these are just an example of us having to track the inventory within the warehouse. And it's similar to us tracking inventory if we were a merchandising company and tracking inventory. If the prices change, we have the same flow assumptions, problems that we'll have to deal with. First in, first out, last in, first out, average cost. Our focus here, though, is going to be on the job cost. So these are just going to be some examples of the types of forms we would need. And now we're just going to basically say, I'm going to scroll all the way to the left, that the requisition forms that we got are these requisitions forms for these jobs. Job B15, B16, B17, B18, and B19. We're going to start these jobs, and we asked for materials for them with requisition forms. And so then we also have some materials that are small materials that we're not going to apply to a particular job of 550. And so that could be stuff like if we're making guitars or something, it's like glue or something like that, the things that go into the guitar. If we're talking about construction, these might be small materials and whatnot that it's not worth us tracking to particular jobs. Okay, so that means that what we're going to do is take, from a journal entry standpoint, the journal entries, the easiest part of this, we're just going to take the information out of the raw materials and transfer it to work in process, both of these being inventory accounts. Raw materials is an inventory account with a debit balance. We're going to make it go down doing the opposite thing to it, which will be a credit. So I'm going to right-click on raw materials, right-click and copy. I'm going to put that on the bottom, so it's on B5, right-click, and I'm going to paste it 1, 2, 3, just the values. And we're going to credit it for this amount, the 2,230, not including the 550. So it's going to be a credit of 2230. And then we're going to debit something for that same amount. I'm going to do that by saying negative of this number, or we could just type in there 2230. And it's going to go into the work in process account. So here's the work in process account. That's where it's going. It's a debit, it's another asset account. It's going to increase. So we're going to do the same thing to it as its normal balance, a debit. So I'll right click on that and copy it. Put that in B4, right click and paste 1, 2, 3. So there's going to be our first journal entry. Let's go ahead and record that to the general ledger. So we're going to go to the general ledger for work in process. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 accounts over. So it's going to be 4 accounts to the right as well. So if I go to the right, here's work in process. I'm going to have to go back and forth on the screens a little bit. We could freeze the panes, or you could make the screen smaller like this so you can see more. But I'm just going to try to scroll back and forth here. So we're recording this right there in S9. It's going to say equals and point to that 2,230. I'm going to scroll to the right a little bit for. It's going to go from 0 up by 2,230 to 2,230. This amount then is what's being used to create the trial balance. And we're of course out of balance by that amount now. Now we'll record the other side. And these, you may not be able to use these if it's locked, but they're in the formulas section here. I've put them in the quick toolbar. Okay, then raw materials. Raw materials is here. Here's raw materials, third account. It's the same order on the general ledger. So raw materials is going to be down here. So we want to be on the credit side. So I'm in cell P24. P24. And I'm going to have to scroll up just a little bit to do this. So I'm going to be in P24 here and say equals. And I would highly, you could put just a dollar amount here, but I would use formulas as much as possible. Scroll up and we want that 2,230 on the credit and enter. And that brings the 550 down by 2,230 to 147,770. That then can be found on the trial balance. And it's going to put us back in balance here. Debits equal in the credits. No effect on net income. No effect on net income. Now I'm also going to represent this on the jobs as well. And we're just going to have a quick little job sheet so that we can track these jobs. So 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, 700, 450, 670, 180, and 230. I'm going to copy these. I'm going to go all the way to the right. And here's going to be our jobs. So I'll put this down here again just so we could see it. So job, here's going to be our job sheets. Now these are just fairly simplified sheets, but notice what we're going to have is the job number. And I'm going to represent whether it be opened, closed, or shipped, meaning we sold it. And then we've got the direct materials, direct labor, and the factory overhead. Every job is going to include those 3 things. when we start the job, we generally start with the materials. That's the first thing we do. So now it's in progress, and we're transferring these materials, and we know which job they should go to because they're right here. So we're going to say, okay, materials for jobs B15 is going to be that 700. So 700. We're going to say for B16 is 450. 450. B16 is going to be here, and that was 670. We're going to say that this is B18, and that's going to be 180. And then B19 is going to be that 230. So here's B19, 230. Now, if we did this correctly, if we add up these jobs, which is this cell, adding them up, there's the total for all the jobs, which only includes, the direct materials at this point. That should be equivalent to what's on the GL at this time. So here's the GL, or here's the trial balance, which is equivalent to the GL. And that's going to be the same as what's on the job sheet. So notice that this number is being derived from this number, and this number is going to be supported. If we look at this number on the trial balance, we need to support it with a subsidiary ledger in a similar way that we need to support the accounts receivable with a subsidiary ledger. In other words, accounts receivable, we need to support it not only with the GL, given it's detailed by date, but by who owes us money. We need a subsidiary ledger telling us by customer. The same thing is true here. We need the GL tells us by date what happened, but we also need it by job because we need to track this information by job. That's what these job cost sheets are doing. So we're going to track over here each thing by job. The job cost sheet has to match all the job cost sheets, if we add them together, has to match what is in the work in process. Okay, I'm going to scroll back to the left now, and I'm going to do the last piece of this, which is this indirect materials. That's also going to come out of the materials warehouse, but we couldn't assign it to a job. We could think of it like a buying the glue for all the guitars we're making. They just needed more of it in the warehouse. We don't know which job it's going to go to. We're just going to put it in there, and whoever needs it can use it. So then we've got the work in process. The raw materials is going to go down. So I'm going to right click and copy. I'm going to skip a line and skip another line to have a new journal entry. I'm in B8, right click and paste 1, 2, 3. So the raw materials is going down again by this 550, and then there's going to be a debit. So I'm going to do that with a negative of this number, or we could just type in 550. And now we just need to know what that account is going to be. It's not going to be work in process because we can't apply it to a job. So we have to put it in this bucket of overhead. We will apply it to a job at a later time, but we'll have to do some type of estimate in order to do so. So I'm going to right click and copy the factory overhead, put that in B7, right click and paste 1, 2, 3. And now we'll record this out. So here's the factory overhead. Here's the factory overhead. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over. So it's going to be the same order on the GL. And the factory overhead is going to be down here actually. It's in S25, factory overhead debit side. So I'm going to put my cursor in S25 and say equals, and then go left. And I'm just going to scroll up till I find this. And so there it is. I'm in C7 and enter. So it went from 0 up by 550 to 550. And again, if you double click on it, it's C7. This number then is being used to create the trial balance here. And we're out of balance, of course, by the 550 till we record the other side. So then we're going to go to raw materials. Here's raw materials. It's the third account. It's going to be the same in the GL. So here's raw materials down here. It's a credit again, so we're in P25. P25, we'll say equals. I'm going to scroll up just a bit and pick up that 550. And it's going to bring this 147,770 down by 550 to 147,220. That number then, of course, used to create the trial balance here. And that puts us back in balance, debits equaling the credits. And we have net income, nothing right now. And notice that's going to be the case for pretty much this whole job cost system until we sell the finished goods, and then it'll be affected by cost of goods sold. So all this activity we're doing here is really just going to be moving throughout the assets, more specifically moving throughout inventory asset type accounts. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info.